We're talking about retailers. Retailers forming a coalition to take on counterfeit goods. They're backing a new piece of legislation. We're joined by Retail Industry Leader Association Senior Executive Vice President Michael Hanson to talk about this legislation. Michael, thanks so much for joining us. Tell us a bit more about what's going on right now, especially during this pandemic when we've seen a boom in e-commerce sales. And you're cracking down here and pushing for lawmakers to crack down on counterfeit goods. Talk to us about the problem that you're trying to address here.
Yeah, thanks, Julia. I appreciate you having me on. So organized retail crime and counterfeits have been part of what retailers have been trying to crack down on for over a decade. And what organized retail crime is when you have a professional criminals that go into retail stores and they target very specific goods. They take all of those goods out of the store, potentially multiple times in a week, and then they set up an illegitimate business on third-party platforms to sell those goods.
Well, I also want to bring into the conversation Reggie Wade, who's been following this story closely. Reggie, you can go ahead and take it away.
Yes, one space that I deal closely with is the footwear industry. We have the Nikes, the Adidases, the Pumas of the world. Do you see that they're jumping on board with this new coalition? If so, what are some of the things that the bigger sportswear brands have to say about their products being counterfeited?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Reggie. So the coalition is called the Buy Safe America Coalition, and it is a collection of associations and companies who formed to protect consumers from the sale of counterfeit and stolen goods, by trying to enact common sense measures that promote safety, transparency, and accountability. And we know that counterfeits have been such a big issue. I mean, you look at the Department of Homeland Security report that came out and said counterfeits is about a $500 billion problem. And so the members of this coalition go across different industries, from apparel and footwear to personal care and healthcare products to toys, to shopping centers and to jewelers. So it's broad and diverse, and we hope we have the solution to reduce counterfeits and stolen products from being sold on marketplaces.
Michael, you say that one of the steps forward that needs to be taken is lawmakers coming together and passing legislation. But right now we have lawmakers locking horns on stimulus during the COVID pandemic. How confident are you that the folks in Washington can get together and get behind a measure such as this?
Yeah, Reggie, I always hold out hope that members of Congress will come together, especially when they're trying to protect consumers from the purchase of harmful and counterfeit and stolen products. So I will remain bullish that they'll come together and look at the Informed Consumers Act, which is the bill that the coalition is supporting, because when they understand the gravity of the problem and really the simplicity of how to fix it, hopefully they'll come together. So I'm going to hold out hope.
Michael, you did identify just how massive of a problem it is. I think you said, was it 500 billion? Is that the number you said
Correct.
earlier?
In the latest Department of Homeland Security report they put out, counterfeits are about a $500 billion a year problem.
Yeah, really remarkable and huge number when you mentioned that. And you said the fix is pretty simple. What are some of the consequences, or what should be the consequences for those who might not comply? Say this legislation passes. And why wouldn't someone want to comply with something like this? It seems like it's a win-win for the retailers or the e-commerce players and their reputations, but also just the consumers who, frankly, don't want counterfeit goods.
Yeah, clearly no consumer wants to buy a counterfeit, stolen good. The simplicity of what the bill does, if you don't give me one moment to explain, is that essentially what it does is two things. It says that an online marketplace must verify the information of the third-party seller, and the third-party seller has to also provide contact information to the consumers, right? So they know that it's a legitimate business before they're selling products, and that the consumer knows who's selling those goods so they can contact him if there's a problem. I'm not sure why any member of Congress or anyone else would want or see a need not to do this, because right now the key to this whole thing is verifying the information.
Michael, we see a lot of counterfeits on all different areas of the spectrum, but which goods do you see are being counterfeited more? Goods like clothing, or do they skew more towards electronics?
Yeah, Reggie, it's a great question. I don't have the breakdown. I mean, from our, speaking from the leading retailers, we certainly see a lot in the footwear industry, but even some of our other associations that have joined this, from healthcare to personal care to toys, it is seemingly daily that you have more and more counterfeits flooding the online marketplaces. So regardless of whether it's a small amount that's counterfeited or a large amount, we certainly want to see an end to that. And we think the Inform Act is one way to do that.